Let me tell you how it's done. Above average black men shining like the sun. With Chris
We had this conversation before.
Devin on the beat with telling
Let's put that up to the top. I want to go in there.
Yo, step into the room, we bringing that vibe, highlighting kings and queens who thrive and survive. From the corner of the block, making dreams come true. We elevate the voices, yes, you know how we do. Chris Sia got the wisdom, laying down the facts. Chris Jr. with the passion, pushing us to relax.
Pushing us to relax.
Keeping it fresh.
That's
Together
me.
we're a force, rising up from the rest.
Above average black men, we breaking the mold. Sharing love, sharing stories. Watch the truth.
Yeah, we could never reach these people.
Championing success in every state. We uplift the community. Come join us today.
On a journey through Lazarus tears, celebrating achievements, confronting our fears. We interview the dreamers of the doers, straight hustlers, inspiring youth. Yeah, we raising up these brothers with positive vibes only, breaking down the hate. We rebuild our narrative. It's never too late. Hear about the scholars, the athletes, the artists. In the world full of chaos, their light is the sharpest. Yeah, tune in, don't miss it. We got something to share. Above average.
Guys, welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Pender Sr.
Chris Jr., as always, here to hopefully empower, inspire, and uplift.
Devin Pender here to remind you guys to like, follow, subscribe, share, comment. Above Average Black Men.
Yes.
We are live on Facebook and live on YouTube at the same time. So we are progressing here, man. Interesting show tonight. I've been having this conversation in all kind of ways. All this week since D.L. Hughley came out, said it first. Then Ryan Clark said that they feel as though because of gerrymandering and voter suppression things happen in the southern states, that black athletes should boycott those schools. They should no longer go there. They should go to UCLA, whatever other schools, but schools like Alabama, the states where they don't, they should not go there. So it's been an interesting debate. And then our lovely friend, Stephen A. Smith, he came out there last week and said all black people should vote Republican. We need to cast our votes for Republican. He's standing on that. I'm going to back it up for anybody. So
I'd rather he said they're a third party or something like that.
So it's been interesting because even you have Caucasian people coming out now saying how crazy this is. How we're going backwards. How civil rights was supposed to do all this and how they just unwinding this stuff in a matter of seconds. And one guy went as far as to say, which is pretty funny, and he's from Tennessee. He was mocking them, saying how they walk around with the Trump flags and stuff and keep talking about, look at me, I'm a bigot. That was doing advertising. Then it gets even more interesting, and we get into it. You had a white pastor comes out and says that Trump knows more about the Bible than the Pope. And things couldn't get any worse. You have a black pastor. Trump has a golden statue of himself outside his golf
That's what
club.
I was waiting to bring up.
And the black state, he's standing with his hand on the praying for it. Yeah.
Say it again.
So Trump has a gold statue at one of his golf courses in Florida, and it's this black buffoon that's praying over it.
So it's interesting. We got a lot of stuff to unpack. So I want to start with. So what do you think about the athlete thing? Black athletes, if they don't go to schools in the SEC,
It sounds nice.
It's a lot of things that I feel like sometimes we talk about in theory and don't think about it in terms of like a whole, because there are historically black schools in some of these southern states and places.
Yeah.
So I think the conversation isn't like don't go to school in those places. I think maybe be a little bit more mindful of where we actually go into school, like making sure we're going to places where we got equal representation. We got just kind of people that empower us, and it's things that are in place, whether that's at the school as well as at the local level, as in that community. So I would say just be more mindful of where we're looking at. And it probably does seem like it would be a lot more of those southern schools, but there are still probably black schools in those areas that maybe we need to start giving a look. And when you were talking about the school things with athletes and like certain universities, I just started thinking about Deion Sanders a little bit and like how he went to Jacksonville or like Jackson State and how crazy that was. And we got a couple of black athlete coaches doing that now, but I don't know. I think it's just tough to have us go there.
So I agree with both of you. I agree with Devin that in theory is nice because people just not gonna do it. But what they're talking about is don't go to school in the state because the state has decided to do this. So whether it's an black school, whatever, they're saying don't go to that state. Because they're saying the state obviously doesn't value black people. But you will make that state a whole lot of money. You gonna be on TV, they're coming to the meetings and stuff like that.
But what if our black schools fell in those states? Now that
most of those places they're talking about don't have HBCUs. I understand what you're talking about. They don't have HBCUs, and this is going to come down to what they got talking about. Florida hasn't done it yet, but they talk about like Alabama, those places. Florida hasn't, they may do it now. That's a good question. What happened if they do it? If they do it, but they have those states haven't done it yet. Right? Yeah, so that's a good question. That's a good question. But that's a good question, though. What you said, that's a good question. What you said, that's a good question. What happens if you do it? But our major athletes are not going there anyway. They're not going to HBCUs. Deion tried it, but they're not. They're going to these big time schools. So
it's too fragmented.
And we'll see. I mean, I do. I find it strange, but I do agree with both of them. I do agree, because it wouldn't last long. If for the next 2 years they didn't go there, it would change, because it would change the face of those programs. Those programs, they wouldn't be all white. But think about it: if you had like an all white basketball team or all white football team, I don't know how well they would do. so I think
they got some of those.
I mean,
they don't do that well.
What I'm talking about is as far as these big time schools who get TV money, who get the extra money, you hit them in the pocket. And politicians, the state gets money because when people come all over. If they play a team from another state, they come to the games. So I don't think it would be a long-term thing, because if they did it, but I think like both of you said, it's a big if, because you would have to get everybody on the same page.
NILs.
I was about to say,
but that's anyway. You don't have to go down south to get them.
It's going to be tough to tell a kid who this might be his way out for his family and everything. I'm getting $5 million.
But you can get that. But you can get that anywhere. But you're not going to. That's not the only. If you're a blue chip athlete, that's not the only place going to offer you that.
Certain schools got that type of
money to offer you that.
Yeah, but most
like you're most likely to get it in them SEC schools versus
most of that money is coming from from boosters and things of that nature. But what's the cost of? And I hear you, but what's the cost? What are you willing to pay? For going backwards, because we're going backwards, and it's going to spread. If it's successful in those states, it's going to creep its way to what you talk about across the state. It's going to keep coming, because it's just like the pro-life thing. He tested the Supreme Court, they overturned it, so now they can overturn it and they won't overturn it, because it's precedent is set now. So eventually, it's going to creep its way across. Like they're going to go back to where they were telling schools, they were telling Ivy League schools that you couldn't do this, you couldn't have DI, you couldn't have it. That's going to come back. So and you got to remember, HBCUs built the SEC, because remember, they couldn't beat black schools. Black school, Grambling was kicking their butt. All them HBCUs, when they were scrimmaging, was crushing them. Guys like Sam LeBam Cunningham, Jerry Rice, all those guys was HBCUs. Doug Williams. So what they found out was they couldn't beat them, so they invited them to go to the schools, which took the talent out of HBCUs to begin with.
I think part of it, they did not want to travel to places to even find people like that.
Well, great, because when you race it, when you think only people live is
he said Compton.
I had to go where?
But you talking about, but see, you missing the point, because you talking about a time where they weren't traveling because they thought we were inferior. They thought we weren't good athletes. They thought we couldn't think. For years in the NFL, quarterbacks who were successful in college, Warren Moon, they tried to turn into a running back or a receiver in the NFL because they thought he wasn't smart enough. So it's been going on for a while. So I don't have an answer. I do think it's time for us to boycott. I do think it's time for African Americans to say, we're not going to Chick-fil-A for a month. We're not going here for a month, because we do spend a lot of money in this country.
That has to be a step further than that.
Yeah.
Because you said DLU, we say that comedians and entertainers go to these schools as well, too, to do shows and different things like that.
No,
so
but
they also would have to.
But they pledged not to. And I was watching the thing with Dave Chappelle. I'm not a huge Dave Chappelle fan. I'm not, but he makes a lot of sense too. He said, "Hey, I got, he has a daughter who only knows a white president." And he kind of turned into a joke. He said, "Daddy, he's not too good at this, is he?" So it's kind of funny, but he said the same thing in a serious manner. It's time for us to start sticking together. It's everybody. I think it's ironic that comedians are leading the way. I think it's kind of funny that these comedians are leading the way with these public statements, and a lot of other people are not. But you know,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's intentional. It's almost intentional and it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I mean, Malcolm X said this, like, you know, like we got our athletes and comedians, like, quote unquote, like the quote gestures that are supposed to be the ones that are having these leading these serious conversations and dialogue. And it's like, yeah, I can respect it. I feel like it is a craft to do that. But then you got the other side of that where it's like you do have Dave Chappelle, who kind of they were talking about him, blaming him and his voice for how he played in politics. And it blows my mind that like we're at a state now where comedians are almost held to a higher standard in how they speak and talk about things and our actual.
He talked about that. He talked about that.
So it's like, man, why is it so much weight on these guys or these group of people to tell us the truth? Nobody sees a problem with that, you know. Like,
yeah, but I mean, I agree with it, but the truth has to come from somewhere.
I respect and commend it.
I do think other people should be stepping up.
We in trouble if that's our source of truth.
Well, the voice is the voice, and I think sometimes you got to separate the person from the occupation. You know, if he's speaking truth and he's saying wisdom, then I think you got to separate the two. I think America has done a great job of not separating the two. Like, you know,
and
if you look at the Black Panthers, and that the more and more people start talking about the Black Panthers, they had the first after school program. They had the first food program. But what happened? They lumped them together because they defended themselves one time. They shot back, and because they had the black leather, they were now defined as being militant. Everything else they've done, you know, so America does a great job of doing that too. You know, but we have to do a better job of, you know, like I'm glad they said it. I agree with you. I wish it would have came from somebody else, but I'm glad they both spoke up. I'm glad Ryan Clark spoke up. I'm glad that he used his platform to say, look, hey, you know, we need to do a better job.
And I think it's just crazy that we don't have a black politician that is speaking like this.
Yeah, I agree.
These black, or just at this point, any politician, I don't even care.
But it goes back to what you were just talking about when you were talking about how we don't stick together, and you know, and I think some people want to be successful and at any cost, and some people are not. Like I was laughing. I was thinking about you Monday night. It was funny. Your mom said, "What you laughing at?" And I was laughing because they're finally decided to start investigating these congressmen and stuff who've been getting rich because who's selling stock. Like they were selling stock right before the gas went up, right? They're buying, they were buying and selling. So, but I'm laughing because how long has it been going on?
These idiots were never experts at anything. And then now they just killing it in the market.
But most of those guys didn't set out to be like that. You know, they got in there and they found a way. So, but at what point do you stand up and say, hey, I gotta have some ethics. I gotta have some morals, man. At what point do you say, I gotta start thinking about the next generation? You know, and I do get it what you're saying. The guy that's poor, they throwing $5 million. But for some of those guys who getting that same offer from USC and from all those other schools, you know, or HBCs ain't gonna be able to match that, HBCUs, but you're getting these offers, man. I think you gotta consider that because you're going somewhere where you are gonna be a second class citizen. You're gonna be living there for football. They don't say 4 years, but you know, most of them, you're gonna be in this place where you're gonna be living and you're a second class citizen. You're subject to all the rules, all the racism, all, you know, don't think, and you know about anybody, but your Mansfield experience. And I think some people think because I play on this team or because it's not gonna happen to me.
But this is where I call on probably athletes and people now. If we do want this to happen,
that was my next question.
Is like, all right, these guys that are professional athletes that we do look at, like your LeBrons, even your Draymond Greens, because he's a vocal guy, you know what I mean? Charles Barkley, guys that are like veterans and like that I think could easily kind of reach back and probably like provide some type of insight and pathways. But it's two sides, because I think younger generation has to be receptive and accepting of these things from the older generation to be like, yo, this is the game. Like, hey, like if we want you to or we want to get together and not support these schools in the South, then like, all right, this is how you take care of your money and your NIL, and this is how to make the most of this. And then you can go to any school, and then the money's not going to be a problem for you if you do these things. And then it's just like, if you're going to, I think sometimes if we're going to tell people to do things, I think sometimes we don't really show or paint that picture. Like we say boycott Target. All right, tell me where else I can go where I can get that for free or like get this cheap.
Kobe Bryant, D Wade, and Melo, they showed you the roadmap when they broke the union. Now everybody's not going to do that. When they gave money to the hot dog vendors, all those people that wasn't working, they showed you it could be done because they did no other sports team could do. They broke the union in the NBA. So it can be done.
But that was
now the
almost
question is, like you said,
that was reactionary.
But they did it though.
Yeah, I know, but that was
they
like
did
almost reactionary.
You know, they did it.
Your back's against the you gotta come up with something because of this.
But they didn't have to reach back and say, I'm gonna get a hot dog vendor. You know, to your point, they took care of them. And I do agree with you. You can't go to somebody and tell them swim and don't teach them how to swim. You know, and I do think
just get in
there.
there.
You'll figure it out. But, and also think you can't be hypocritical either. I think I was watching this. I'm gonna switch subjects real quick, but I was watching this guy. This millennial was talking about church, and he said 3 things that just blew me away. The first thing, the guy said, "Well, why don't you go to church?" And he said, "It's not that I don't go to church." He said, "You make a mistake. We do go to church." What he said was, "I just go to church online." And he said, "One reason why I don't go to church is because into the building because they're hypocritical. They're more concerned about what I look like than what I'm there for." And the third thing he said, and this all ties into what we're talking about. And the third thing he said was, you know, they're not building relationships, you know, and when they teach us, they're telling us these stories and everything, but they're not teaching us how to apply it to our lives. And it goes into exactly what we're talking about. So I think in our community, it's become a societal thing. We don't teach people how to apply it. We say, do this, do that, but we're not saying this is how you do it. We're not saying, you know, let me show you how to do it. Or we got people who did it the other way and made all this money and they safe now. So now they want to say, you know, they want to come back and say all this stuff. But at what point do African Americans begin to say, okay, enough is enough? Do we wait to, like they want to take away the 14th Amendment? They work on that now. And if it passes somewhere, it's going to keep going across the line. At what point do you make any kind of stand, if a stand? So like, let me ask you this real quick. So what do you think professional athletes have a role in that? How could they, other than what you said? Like if I'm playing for a team and we're in this place and this place is this, you know, this kind of place, what do we do? Because back in the day, they're not going to do it now. You know, I can't think of his name now. Bill he used to play for the Celtics. I can't think of his name.
Bill Walton?
No,
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell refused to play in places like that. And some of his white teammates left with him. Places that did work treating them equal. That ain't happening today.
Yeah,
they have his video. I'm getting my money. That ain't happening today. But there has to be a way because it's going backwards.
I think
it's going backwards.
A lot of these schools, you know, they have alumni like giving back.
Yeah.
I think they have to pull their money or disassociate yourself with that school. You know, if you're going to allow this to happen, not stand up. Don't even put my picture up on any wall. Don't do any of this stuff until you could figure out a solution.
But when we live in a competitive country, and winning is winning. So
you get participation trophies. Yes.
Yeah, but at that level, the boosters you're talking about, they want to win. So how, and there's black boosters too who willing to, you know, I look at Clarence Thomas. I hate to bring him up, but the perfect example. You know, he got a job for life. You know, he got a lifetime job as a judge. He don't care, man. I ain't got to care about none of y'all. You know, I'm here. What you gonna do to me? Mm-hmm. You know, so you want to have those. So how do you negate those? And again, what do you do with pro athletes? You mentioned, and I never thought about that. You mentioned the boosters, but the pro athletes have a role in it. Do they say, look, man, do they contribute to the NAACP in that area? I don't know. You know, do they give to HBCUs to make them stronger schools? Which I think they should anyway. I think African American athletes should be contributing to, even if it's like, if they all gave $1,000 a month to some school, it will make a difference. Yeah. That's just my opinion. But so what's next though? You know, you mentioned Target. And Target kind of bluffed everybody, but they changed their strategy because they were losing money. You know, they were losing money. So boycotts do work. But to your point, to both of your points, you know, how do you unify people on it?
I was about to say, because it's always that one Negro.
Yeah,
like with Target.
Oh yeah.
I forget the guy's name, Dr. Bryan or something like that. Yeah, he led the whole thing to try to get people to go back to Target. So
but not even that. I remember your mom and I were in Macy's and we were down in outside of DC, and this young girl, she was in her 20s, kept saying, I want to go to Target. And her mom kept saying, no, we don't go to Target anymore. You know, we're not going there. And the girl was like, well, it costs more here. And the mom said, I don't care. She said, it costs more to go somewhere that's going to cost you freedom or discriminate or not going to treat you fairly. And this girl couldn't get it through her head. I don't understand. We need to go to Target. And she's trying to explain to her the
Trying
whole
to
thing
save
about
the
civil rights.
system.
Yeah, she's trying to explain to her. And so I do get that. That is an issue. But at what point did we still begin to strategize something, man? Like we saw what Martin Luther King Jr. did when they boycotted the buses. They didn't change because, they all of a sudden they got an epiphany. They changed because it was hurting their pocket. What do we do? Because something needs to be done because it's going to keep going across state by state by state. And if everybody keeps saying, well, eventually, they talk about taking the 14th Amendment away.
We need to start holding the feet to the fire and give those Negroes 10,000 lashes. Dr. Umar. Because in all seriousness, I do think we need to be better at just holding each other more accountable. Like that idea of like that mother talking to her daughter about Target.
Yeah, and she's trying to explain to her, but the daughter wasn't hearing it.
But at the same time, I just feel like I can appreciate the conversation
being
had because I don't think that even happens enough. Like I think sometimes we just let each other kind of like do things unchecked that we know isn't a good look for us as a whole, as a community.
But we don't understand how it ties together. If I don't teach you in school that you're significant, if I don't teach you in school that your people have contributed to the wealth of this country, to building this country, if I make you think that you just really have no history in this country, it's easier to make you think Target is the thing to do. But when you begin to realize that the sacrifice people made to vote, how they did contribute to this country, how capitalism just started with us. The country was broke until they figured out this thing was slavery, man. And every industry took off. Why? Because of slavery. So I think it all strings together, and that's the part that bothers me because we don't find. Like I'm in the school, and it's funny because I was talking to somebody, and I do stuff like I took Chick-fil-A there. I took Chick-fil-A. We had wings and we had pizza, and I brought in the grill guest speaker, renowned speaker, James Trey Rousseau, owner of Holy Culture Radio, and the kids were mesmerized. They were mesmerized, man. And somebody made a comment that we do too much for them.
What does that mean?
And but that's my point because I don't want to start this conversation, but it was a female teacher talking about what we do for the boys. Now, why don't you go start something for the girls then? You see what I'm saying? But I think this is the same thing we're in where we'd rather fight against each other than figure out how to work together for a greater cause.
We do too much for them.
Yeah, and you crazy. Yeah, but even if you felt that way, then start something for the girls. Don't sit back and say, well, I don't want to start something, but I'm going to take it away from Devin. And I think this is where we are as people, that we're not on the same page. And we laugh at what Dr. Umar and people like that say, but that's years of trauma and scars that they've been through. That's years of coming to the table thinking you got a seat at the table and you really don't have a seat at the table. That's years they tell you how they're going to divide the pie up, and you look up, everybody getting fat, and you got the little crust off the end. It's years of our schools not being funded. When they talk about separate but equal, it's years of us going to jail more than statistically speaking than our counterparts who commit the same crime. It's like now they're talking about stopping daycare because it's fraud. We all know the majority of people is going to be impacted by that. So it's just becoming one thing. And Dave Chappelle, and I'm not a huge Dave Chappelle fan, but he was making sense. He said what Black people understand is they just do little by little. And then before you realize it, it's going to be this one big thing that is going to take decades to turn back.
It's just so much happening right now
between
rolling back laws and then putting cameras and microphones everywhere. I don't know if y'all seen some of those things.
I haven't seen them, but I can only imagine, man.
So it's just like
you gotta be very careful what you say and do in public.
How can we not see what's going on? Like this, just like you said, restricting rights and then increasing surveillance is nuts.
But Chris, what you're seeing is that how strong hate is. When you hate somebody, you don't even have
you okay with losing it.
But you don't have, like Trump this morning said,
your own rights.
Trump said this morning when he wrote this morning interview him out, and they were saying, well, how you doing all this stuff? You talking about fixing the fountain and all this stuff, the ballroom, gas is $5 a gallon, and they talk about our stuff costs more. And he said that. But then he got on the plane, which I found out later.
Going to China.
No, but with a bunch of businessmen that go over there and do business.
Yeah, not to China.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but you say you don't care about this economy, but you're taking people from this economy over there to start businesses.
Yeah.
So you're taking jobs, you're taking money. And so how do you not see that? But I hate people who don't look like me so much, I just ignore it, man. And even to the point where maybe I'm gonna be laid off. And I think that's what you're seeing now. But it also comes back to us because
selling this country in front of us.
Yeah, right in front. Yeah, like you said, broad daylight. You ripping you on broad daylight. But and it comes back to us because you said this before. We never take care of the people right in front of us. There's politicians at a low level who've done nothing, who've been in office for years and done nothing but walk around kissing babies, promising a chicken in everybody's pot in the car in everybody's driveway, and they ain't done squat. And we just vote for them. You know, or we don't come out for the the preliminaries. We don't come out for the early. We wait till the big one. But those little guys come back every year. That's who killed us. Like in Pennsylvania, those little guys killed us, man, because they were out there in the community. They were making sure we didn't vote. Or down south, where they said you can't give somebody a cup of Georgia, you can't give them a bottle of water. It's illegal now. You can't give them a chair. We all know who that was geared towards. So at some point, we have to wise up and say, look, man, we're gonna stick together, and we're gonna start doing things that make sense. Like instead of running out and buying a big screen TV, why don't you buy a real computer for your kids, man? Make sure they're educated. Make sure your kid ain't out there, he can't have a complete sentence, man. Yeah, make sure he going to school more than he's smoking blunts. There's so many things that we do as a people, man, and we just don't. We don't value education. They closed 17 schools down here. You think closing 17 schools, how many people should have been down there, man? 17 schools, half the city should have been down there. But they weren't. And now the teachers union is trying to figure out, not parents, and they could be helping them, but I'm saying right now the teachers union is trying to figure out how to keep these schools open. But the schools they're closing and what areas they're in. And some of them probably should be closed, but who's going to be impacted?
Parents ain't going to care until it's the first day of school next year, and they got to go out a little bit further than they need to go, and they trying to figure out transportation.
But they'll care about the wrong things. That's exactly what they care about. Because my kid got to get up early.
Oh my goodness, I got to get up early now. I got to get up early, but it's like it isn't the root
absolutely
of
right
education as to why they should be getting upset. It's unfortunate that that's how our society is, our community is, and that's kind of what I was mentioning when I'm like, we don't hold each other accountable. Like for anybody that knows or is associated with a parent like that, I feel like I've said this before. Like this is somebody's cousin, aunt, uncle, like people that we know that we're related to. Where it's like you could be like, yo, get your stuff together. Like get your stuff together. Like I legit think that we just need to be better at people just calling out nonsense sometimes. Like, we've let so many things slide in our culture that we know is not right. Like, I think for instance, we kind of do have this in the Black community, but I feel like it's just like in the white community, they have it where it's like you got your rich whites who dress and act like this. You got your middle class families. You got your trailer park. You got this. For us, everybody want to look and be the same. The rich man want to look like the guy that's on the corner. The guy that's on the corner, we can't tell if he got money or not. It's just like, and I think it's just our community. We all over the place. Like it's just. And that's how it goes when things happen to our community. We all over the place. We can't agree or come together on nothing. And ain't no sense of direction or somebody that we can look at or look to and be like, it was Obama. But then it's like, what do we have now? And I think that is part of our problem.
And I will say there probably are tons of young people trying to get out there and make changes. But the problem is, once that person says something that someone doesn't like, now they're automatically on the other side.
Yeah. Nobody's receptive to it.
We don't know how to agree to disagree. Yeah. I believe.
Agree to disagree.
But there's a bunch of stuff, underlining stuff that we don't do a good job of. We don't do a good job of those who make it give it back. We don't. And we say stupid stuff. I pulled myself up by my own. No, you didn't. Somebody helped you somewhere down the line, man. Or we see a group of kids doing something, and now that's every kid. So we don't help anybody. We don't go back into our communities, man. Some of us, we don't spend our dollars with Black businesses. You don't remember, but I remember we were growing up over off Eastburn Avenue. There was a Chinese store in the corner, the black store in the corner, and the black guy went up in his price because he had to get a security guard because they were stealing from. They weren't stealing from the Chinese, so they were stealing from him. People wouldn't did go across the street to the Chinese store. You know, the money, but see, they stealing from him, and he's trying to defend his stuff, and he's wrong. You know, so that's the kind of mentality we got to change. But it goes back to America understands dollars and cents. That's just the bottom line, man. If it starts to cost them dollars and cents, it's no longer. I think right and wrong has been supplanted by dollars and cents. The bottom line is taking, even in politics, man. They not there trying to do what they're supposed to do. If they getting paid, man, that's all that matters. You put money in your pocket, selling stock and buying stock before everybody knows it. And there's people out here who are making minimum wage, who now got to pay $5 a gallon for gas, try to figure out how, you know, I want to get a burger, man. You know, I'm not gonna say where. It was $19.
Snitching.
It was $19.
Trying to get us.
I'm just saying though. So imagine being a parent. You know, even a 2-parent home, you both make minimum wage. You know, you got to choose now. Do I fill my car up? You know, do I keep paying my insurance? Look, I just went to the pharmacy. Man, I was paying $5 for my medicine. It cost me $35 a day. Oh, yo, I was paying $5 because my insurance kicked. I had to pay $5 no matter what I got.
I know.
So, but I'm thinking I'm okay. I'm okay. But what about the person who doesn't have anything?
I seen the price of one of my meds, and I told them they can keep it. I'll be okay. I don't need it. I'll be fine.
And that's fine. But there's some people who look like us who need it, man. They need it for their kids to survive, man. They can't, you know, they need it desperately. You know, and some of us, we think because we got it made, and to your point, Devin, we just act like those other people don't exist, or we make up excuses. Or like I was listening to this lady on TV today, and she was saying how people want, you know, because of income, get daycare, they're going to cut it. And her thing was either go out and get a job. Well, most of them have a job. Let's make a job to pay $300 a week for an infant, and you still got bills to pay. But when you have money, you don't understand it. And even in art, we do the same thing in our community. We talk down to people who we think is not where we are, or we think they should be where we are. Because look what I did. We from the same neighborhood, so it's becoming, you know, more and more.
Yeah. Like it's definitely
you're right, Kevin. But I think this is what we got to do a better job of, man. We, like, for instance, man, let me tell you something. I was down to Philly's game the other night, right? And it's one thing about Philly I can say, man. You know, sports come out, man. They don't see white, black, red, purple, green, any color. Man, they don't see any of that stuff. It's crazy. Yeah. Hey, walking around there high-fiving. I was walking around talking to somebody. Crazy. People was jumping in the conversation, giving, you know, I'm like, yo, you know, people walking past, giving you a high five. I was like, man, what?
Remember the
but it's kind of funny. But it's funny because that's a perfect example.
Feel good.
That's the but that's the issue. But those are the issues that we have, and we don't address them. I say this all the time, man, and people get upset when I say it. You know, go when I was a kid. You know, we solve all the problems in the world in the barbershop. Man, we get in that black barbershop, man, and we solve world hunger. We fix what's wrong with Joel and B. We got all the answers. We fix everything.
Nice little venting session.
Yeah, but then some of them don't vote. You know, some of them don't even share their stuff with their kids. You know, they're not talking to their kids about current events and the history and stuff like that. You know, and those are the things that we lose because I'm dealing with kids, man, who don't have an inclination about the history.
I was just about to say, it's a disconnect. The communication is off.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like there's nobody that is willing to actually listen to one another. It almost feels like it's the trauma Olympics. It's the depression Olympics. I gotta be the most depressed. I gotta be the most trauma. I gotta have the most this and that. Like, oh no, you can't have more than this to me, or you can't.
I gotta be the better victim.
Yeah, I gotta be the better victim.
But it goes back to slavery. They started the thing in slavery where house Negro and the field Negro.
Gotta be the best.
They made the house Negro light skinned, made him feel like he was superior to the field Negro. So that kind of started. Then it came down to, you know, who could do this the best, you know, because you can pick more cotton. We're going to make you the supreme cotton pick, you know, kind of thing. You know, and we've been fighting each other ever since, man. And it's funny because we fight each other to keep each other down. You know, I think you said it earlier, there's no more working together. Like, I sit down and talk to couples, and I brought this up the other night when talking to a team of people. I don't hear even couples saying, let's work together to build this. You don't hear it anymore. He's saying, she need to have that, and she's saying he got to have this. It's like, no, what happened to working together, man, and building stuff together? And it's funny because, but you'll see an interracial couple, and they talking like that.
That is crazy. You better start something else. Leave that interracial stuff out of here. But it just bothers me. Just the really idea of the conversation, like that conversation does not happen.
Nope.
And when people talk about relationships, like the idea of being able to build and work with somebody and grow with somebody, I don't think I've heard those words used in a sentence for a relationship, unless you're talking about debt and maybe like just something with money. But no, it's just like nobody talks about the idea of just being able to have patience with your partner. I mean, we kind of jumped and talked to partners, but I think this also relates to our community, though.
Definitely.
And like just like the idea of being better listeners and giving each other grace and like space to grow. Because I think that's the thing sometimes too. Like we expect so much of each other, like your brother, your sister, your peer, whatever. And like it's frustrating when you don't see that somebody is kind of getting what you're saying or understanding that. And I kind of using that example of the mom and the daughter at Target. Like I could imagine that mom wanted to choke her daughter out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? But it's still like you got to be able to have love, patience through those conversations. And I think that's how we can unify each other. It's like just coming to those conversations with that type of thing. You mentioned you said this too, Dad, about that idea of agreeing to disagree.
Yeah.
Like that is okay. And it's a commercial with a Republican and a Democrat. I can't think of their names right now, but it's funny because they look alike. One is white and one is black.
That is funny.
Yeah, and they both got baldies. And they actually are best friends. That's the commercial, is that they sit on the other side of the aisle. They have different political views, but then in the commercial, they're like, we both like basketball. We both fathers. Like, I mean, we both like to do these things that make us human beings. And we need more of that.
Yeah.
Like we can disagree that, maybe I agree or disagree with abortion. That's something that's my personal stance. That's okay. I don't have to hate you for that. But I mean, I as a man, I can respect you and we can find common ground, and maybe we can find a way to have a better understanding of each other and maybe find some middle ground in some of these situations or things. We have none of that.
Talking about a different type of strength and courage. And we lack that now. We do. We totally lack it because we talk about kids, but adults are the same way. I don't want to be different.
Yeah.
I don't want to be viewed as being different. I don't agree with this. I'll say this in this room to the side. I'll leak something to the press, but I'm not going to stand up when it counts and say, I just don't agree with this. And that's what you and it happens more and more and more. And so you think, our youth are watching this, and that's the example they get. And I'm not picking on schools, but I'm I do work in schools, and some of the stuff I see they allow our black boys to get away with is ludicrous. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I'm gonna tie it into this.
He didn't eat.
A perfect example. I walk into one young man. I say, I go. Perfect example. And this is what our future, how we get people like we just talked about. I say, what's going on, man? I'm hungry. I said, well, you hungry? Did you eat breakfast? I don't eat breakfast. And I want to say, fool, that's why you hungry, but I didn't. I just said, but I'm just sitting and thinking like, yo, think about what you just said. So we get deeper conversation. His problem with school is they don't allow him to do what he wants to do. He's serious about that. So I'll fast forward. We got adults, even in politics, the same way. It ain't about the greater good. I need to be able to do what I want to do. Yeah. I don't care if I'm the only one who gets rich. Everybody, like I look at, people in Kentucky, one of the poorest states in there, and you keep voting for these morons who don't want free healthcare. You know what I mean? They don't all the stuff that you living off of because you hate people who don't look like you, that much. And I think that's the issue where people keep trying to skate around. Race is a major issue in this country, and people try to act like it don't exist anymore, and it does. It does in a big way. It's funny because Drakeman, you see all these quarterbacks are starting to come out and talk about Jalen Hurts. Even the way, if you look at how he's treated and Lamar Jackson is treated, They don't treat Joe Burrow like that. They don't treat, what's the name? Allen won nothing in Buffalo. And they got him up there like the Holy Grail of quarterbacks.
I think a step further. Justin
No.
Herbert has not.
That's he ain't coming close. Yeah. So, but then what the first thing they say in sports? Oh no, that's not accurate. But it is accurate. So I think, but you know what? I blame people in sports, like our friend, loudmouth Stephen A, because he's there because he represents the stereotype of black people being loud and obnoxious and people love him. But he sides with them. And just like I was talking to somebody earlier, you know how you dealing with the Caucasian and they think they cool and they tell you how they got this one black friend? And they think that means something. They making a statement. Well, I got a black friend. I got a black friend. But
so they go look for all these malls.
So I think, this is how we end up where we are, man, because we got all this crap going that nobody's addressing. Nobody's addressing, man. It's a perfect example. I'm talking to somebody and they're telling me how, and I'm not going to get into how this one teacher, and I think I shared it with you, his numbers when it comes to leaving down black and brown boys is crazy. It's just so disproportionate.
Oh, I'm holding them back.
Yeah, it's to get not passing.
You can still hold black people. I thought it was just everyone.
No, this is just
it depends on who it is. It depends on most some districts don't do
How many
something.
points have
You get, but I'm talking about leading up before now. But now, which is the next thing we can talk about, how you got to almost build a building up to get left down now. Man. Like, I got guys going to school to get recovery, and they don't even go to those classes. They don't even go to those classes. But the point I'm making is,
they can skip your grade.
But that's the foundation for the future. Yeah. And to me, we don't realize it's being done on purpose. And I go back everybody's not going to do it. But if you got blue chippers who say, you know what, I'm not doing it. I'm going to go to another school and get the money and different things. And schools are greedy. When they see that happen, them other schools will start raising the stakes too. When they see they can get guys to pull, they're going to be go. And the school who's not getting them, they may last a year or two, but you want to see in 2 years you get no blue chip recruits. You want to see the drop off in talent.
So I kind of wish Travis Hunter kind of stayed, that HBCU route, because he was the number one player in the country at that point. And like to see you go to HBCU, I'm sure a bunch of other kids in your position probably saw that. Like, I can do that too.
Well, on the flip side, you see they started hiring more NFL coaches, more NFL players than coaches. But I agree with you. It has to be sustainable, and 1 year is not going to make it sustainable.
The idea of accountability, though. Let's talk about this. There were issues at these black schools, like with how things were ran.
Yep.
So it's like if we going to sit here and say that we want these guys to do it, then we need to raise the level of how these things are being ran.
But you can't have one without the other. I agree with you. Mm-hmm. You cannot have one without the other. You just can't give somebody a boatload of money and they can't manage $5. So I agree with you 200%.
I'm just saying, like, if Dion in there, like, let Dion come in and be Dion. Don't you gotta restrict them. Like put caps on them and well, you can't do this in this program.
But you know what that's from.
You gotta let it build.
But you know what that's from. That's from the slave mentality. Yeah. I'm not gonna let Devin be bigger than me. I've been here. He come in here.
He is bigger than the program.
No, but see, I wouldn't say he's bigger, but the people that give him money to without him. And I think you gotta understand that.
That's what I'm saying.
But ego and pride comes in, and it becomes an issue because, but this goes back to what I said. It's no longer about the good. It's the greater good. It's about me now. Forget that all these other people coming to school could be getting paid, could be eating. Yeah. No, it's about me now because my emotions. And we talked about this yesterday. How guys have more emotions than females now sometimes. Yeah. They do. But that's the issue. But at some point, we have to start trying to figure out how do we unify. At some point, we got to start thinking about how do we make things better? Because I'll be honest, and some people think I'm crazy when I say it. And Martin Luther King said this too. I think Brown versus the Board of Education set us back. Because it was never separate but equal. They separated us, but they put us in the older buildings. They gave us the older books, and they gave us the teachers they didn't want, which they didn't realize some of these black teachers were brilliant. So it was never equal. So we started out behind the 8 ball, and we still, if you look at the way that the school system works now, we still behind the 8 ball. So that's kind of stuff has to be, and I'm not saying I'm not condemning anybody from doing it, but if you really look at it, it kind of set us back a little more. Because remember, when we had our own, we were producing more doctors, producing more lawyers. We had Rosewood, we had we had all those. Yeah, we were prospering.
Yeah, I know.
Now we were kind of forced to, but we were prosperous. It's when we decided that we wanted to try to be equal, that we want to try to assimilate to the other side, man, that we kind of lost that drive.
I mean, it was the illusion of access.
Yeah, that's very well put. Very well put.
This chicken is bland.
It's really, yeah.
No, but very well put, man. It was the illusion of access.
The illusion of access. That's really what it was. I feel like he's kind of, you hear Martin Luther King, he's referenced that before. Like just the idea of, almost feeling like it was a mistake, the idea of like trying to integrate within this society, because although we integrate, they just put in these barriers and like these undertones of kind of just racism in laws.
But even when you integrate,
to still hold us back. Where we were good when we had our own, we were forced to do these things. Now,
we looked out for each other.
Right,
yep.
I'm in the classroom with the white people, and
we had black
now
colleges.
they leave you in the corner.
We had black colleges. We had black churches. We had black bikes. We had all that. So, and that's what I meant. How I think in some ways it did more damage. I think
IEP.
Yeah. The other side of the coin where I think we lost traction was we no longer have our rap music is becoming a thing that gives us an identity. That's what we did. We don't identify with pretty in the. I mean, now and I'm not knocking rap music, but
I know like culture.
Yeah,
before we were like, oh yeah, we had BB King and like.
And now it's strictly rap. They don't even mention that. They don't even mention sports anymore because we dominate. But our just what they associate with is crazy, and we're okay with that.
That's actually sick. And it's just like they getting rid of history. It's only a matter of time until it comes up there now. Like BB King's white, and they just change things.
But I say this all the time.
Switch it around,
If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be trying to get rid of it. They wouldn't. If the way people if people voted, they wouldn't get rid of it. But you watch this stuff like I watched this thing yesterday with Cam Newton and your boy. The boy everybody fighting with, Jason, whatever his name is.
Oh, Jason
Whitlock.
And I'm watching it, man. Yeah, what disgusting, man. At one point, it just got crazy. It was like two little kids in the classroom. They just calling each other names. I'm saying, these dudes make all this money. And then Jason Whitlock went way too far because what he say? But this proves my point about crabs in the barrel. I'm trying to think. He made some reference to that, if you black and you don't watch football, you gay. I'm like, dude, so Cam Newton was like, what are you talking about? I'm saying, what are you talking about?
It's because there was a picture of Stephen.
He's
playing like solitaire, like the
instead of football
finals last year.
Yeah,
he was like, it's my opinion.
But this is why we can't get ahead. But this is why we can't get ahead. This is exactly why we can't get ahead, man. The stuff we do is crazy.
Can we say Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith going back and forth?
But he was naming other people. He was killing about 5-6 other people. I mean, he oblivious to ESPN.
You know what's crazy?
All them dudes work for
ESPN.
ESPN.
The same guy.
Yeah, he said all the people ESPN. What you say, Devin? Even they Gary something else he said is wrong with him. And I'm like, dude, and then he started talking about Cam. He says, well, Cam, you could have been this, but he said, look how you dress. He said, if you won 5 Super Bowls, you could dress like that. And he was going on again. He said, but you didn't win any. He was going. And I'm like, yo, you can see the Cam face. It was like funny. 2 little kids in the schoolyard.
That's so funny.
And these 2 grown men making all this money.
But he know what sells.
And I agree. Yeah, but at what point did you stop throwing your own away? And I agree with you 200%. At what point did you stop jamming your own people up though to make money?
I don't care about his own.
No, I agree.
That's funny. You would think him and Steve A. Smith got
No, they're the same guys.
Because
that's why I'm like,
they're the same guys. The only difference is one
I do it better.
No, the only difference is in my eyes. I think Jason Whitlock kind of leans towards the lighter skin side.
You fat.
And I think Stephen A. Smith, he plays his hood card. He plays the loud guy in the room, man, always shouting at you. Yeah,
I'm from New York.
Yeah. And but that's the problem though. Why does that have to be public? Why does it have to be public? Or Stephen A. Smith, you going on Molly and all these people. Come on, dude,
content over.
Yeah, no, somebody's husband came up there. So, but this why do we have to do that? Because they look at Stephen A. Smith and they say, you know what, that's how black guys act. That's why we can't have a bunch of them in here. Because they act just like that. Get a little bit of power on there, and they just, and that's what he does.
Steve.
I would love to have a 30-minute conference because I'm just trying to figure out, is it worth it? I know you got all this money, but inside,
how many words?
you know, how do you? I'm getting mine.
Yeah, I know.
But how do you feel?
Yeah,
How do you
We
feel?
need 2 hours.
I want to be talking.
No, but how do you feel when you selling out your race, man? How do you feel when you do that? You don't feel some kind of way about that, and you got kids. You know, it's not like you don't have any kids that just going to have to go. You got kids, man, and it's not just him. It's a bunch of other people. You know, we look at Clarence Thomas, man. You know, you because you got a white wife, you know, and so you think you in.
I think it's interesting. We kind of had this conversation with someone the other day, like how they say race is not important, it's not a thing, and like we almost feel in this space where we can't talk about it, but we can celebrate so many other cultures.
You sure can.
Like we can have months and days and all these things for it, and talk about it anytime, all the time, and celebrate it. Parades.
And
next month is about to be.
We can't.
But I think, but I think it's several reasons for that, because not only do we stick together for it, we attack people who stand for it. You know, we get into it because, you know, I don't agree with everything Dr. Umar says. I don't. You know, I get where he's coming from, though. You know, I understand that he wants African Americans to be proud of themselves, man. You know, he wants us to have our own. He wants us to stick up for ourselves. We totally missed that.
I can't take that dude seriously.
No, I don't take him serious, but I'm just saying. But I get them. I think a lot of stuff he says is crazy. I do, but I understand what he's trying to accomplish. I'm not saying I agree with it, but I think we look past all that, and instead of us saying, okay, well, here's another. You just said it. Let's do this way. We don't. You know, it's just like we talk about kids in school, and I ask the same question: how many of y'all out there ever volunteered to go to a school? None of y'all. You know, how many of y'all out there ever said, I'm gonna go read to a kindergarten class, or I'm gonna do something? We don't, but we criticize and talk about it. You know, and everybody's not that busy. Some people are that busy, I get it, but some of us, we could do that. You know, we don't. You know, coaching. You know, how many times can somebody say, you sacrifice to coach? People sacrifice to coach me. You know, they don't do that anymore. You know, we just don't. We don't do things to help shape people. We don't do things based on having an impact. And Black people used to be known for that. Now you don't even hear the word in our community.
Got rid of the rec leagues, got rid of the piles.
And it's all about winning. I don't care if you got the worst bunch of characters on your team, man. They winning them. They undefeated.
But that's actually a good, because we used to get together and have fun. Like, you know, granted we was winning, but like, you know,
winning make you have fun.
Yeah, it does. But it was times where we did have teams that, you know, I had them playing up and they was getting the breaks beat off of them every time. But like the practices was fun and they enjoyed getting together. And like I feel like they learned a lot through those lessons, getting that.
Yeah, but you know what? And we got to get ready to go because I got this class. Yeah, but I guarantee you, those kids remember you more than them getting the breaks beat off them.
Oh yeah.
It's like when I run the kids. It's like funny because I was talking about this. You know, I run the kids who still talk about hype like it was yesterday. Like it was yesterday. Oh, what your son doing? You know, because they remember. I had him for math. I did the thing with the sunburst, whatever the sun, whatever thing, whatever. We don't do that anymore though. We don't leave impressions on people. We judge people in our community. You know, we look out for 85% of people I say is selfish. So to go back to the original question, we should be able to boycott. We should be able to say, I'm not going to Walmart for a month. You know what? I'm not going to Chick-fil-A for a month. I'm not going, and when a month over, run back, do whatever you got to do. You know, I'm not going to buy Nike for a month. We got to start thinking about how can we maximize our dollars, because we spend more money than anybody else.
Hey, go to Costco. They sell all that stuff. And if you like Chipotle, they got Chipotle chicken now. Free plug for Chipotle.
But I'm just saying, but even if you make your rounds and just pick a business every month, the statement will be made.
You could.
Because if you don't make a statement, then we're gonna lose our voice.
Boycott.
It's gonna become insignificant. And you know, when I hear these people, it's like people are starting to fire back on people who say whatever you feel about it, that you know he was gonna be better than Kamala Harris. You know, come on, man. Why? Because it wasn't because she wasn't qualified. She's a woman. That's all they gave. So you sold your country up because you want to vote for a black woman. As a black man, your mama was a black woman. So
what black man said that?
It was shows where they were doing in barbershops, and they had whole discussions around that when she was running, man. They were having discussions, and black men were saying why they wouldn't vote for her. You know, I ain't gonna get into the black women and white women, but a lot of black men were saying,
was it political, or was it just because she was a woman?
Nah, they just felt like a woman. She was too emotional, you know, blah, blah, blah. They gave reasons. Some of them gave good reasons. anybody tells me I don't agree with her politics, I'm cool with that. I think you got solid ground. But when you start getting into other things, and I think we often get distracted, and they do it on purpose. We get distracted, and we miss a big picture. We do, and you see it all over the place, man. You see it in sports where you see people, just like, and I keep it simple. I'm laughing now because AJ Brown's kind of quandary right now because you don't know. So one day he talking about staying, one day he talking about going. But you picking fights. You picking fights with Hurst. You picking fights with 70. Like, come on, man. It's almost like you're bipolar. Yeah. And that happens in our community a lot, though.
You can't read. We live in a time too where you can't.
Yeah, the truth ain't the truth.
Believe the first thing you read.
Yeah,
because I've been hearing about like, how they were talking about. He said he wanted to go to the Patriots and all that. They said that potentially may not be true. That reporter that got caught up,
with the coach,
they was leaking and putting those stories out there. So she like fabricated
because he was
to create that pressure,
and it was never about what he said. He was just texting Mike Vrabel. So I do agree with that. But this goes back to my point. If you know that, but if I know that, Chris, I'm be careful what I say.
Yeah.
If I know that, I'm be careful who I say it to. And
you know that Vrabel had that little thing going on.
but I'm not going to dig into that. But you can't tell me if it wasn't an African American coach, he would have been fired or he would have been suspended. Something would have happened.
I mean, listen.
Got fired.
I was about to say.
Emmanuel Doka got
fired.
But that's what I'm saying. But he didn't get in at the end. The NFL said basically. The NFL basically said this is a personal decision.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So he's going to marriage counsel because his wife is making him go to marriage counsel. But it's no ramifications for him. And he lied to the NFL.
I think Doka was because it was Nia Long, though.
Well,
let's get
out of here. No, see, that's it. But that's.
How dare you get him out of here?
No, we have to do a better job. Yes. We got to do a better job of sticking together, man. We got to do a better job of promoting each other.
Yeah.
We
rising above. Let me tell you how it's done. Above average black man, shining like the sun. With Chris Senior.
Another great show on the book. Yours truly, Chris Senior.
Yes, sir, Chris Senior. As always, hopefully we empower, inspire, and uplift you guys.
Yeah. To like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us.
We did get a lot of comments on Podbean, unfortunately.
They're going through some technical changes.
Yeah,
they don't.
What's going on with them.
I got an email basically saying that they're not live. I thought it was supposed to be doing first. They're cutting out the interaction. You got a good point. Maybe some negative because we have 11 messages that we can't get to. So maybe time to get off of Podbean. I'm just saying. Maybe we got them on
here. They come find us on YouTube, Facebook,
I love the Restream part. I love it.
There's some more. We need more followers. You gotta have at least 5 to go live. But
peace, man.